Alright, what's up guys? This is the Real Estate Professors YouTube and podcast channel. I am your host, Sang Kim, and this is my partner, Ed Breaking Windows Park. We're not going to get into how we got that nickname on this episode, but we dive into all things related to real estate and business within real estate, because that's just what our passion is, and this is what we're trying to bring value to you guys through this channel. So Ed, why don't you start us off, give us a little bit of introduction about how you got into real estate, what you're up to in real estate right now.
Going on, what you're seeing in the market these days?
Yeah, so my rentals are in Baltimore City, Maryland. Baltimore City is more of an urban landscape. I just bid on a property near downtown Baltimore. The property was going for about $80,000. It was renting for about $1,400.
Now, is that normal in Baltimore as far as auctions go? Is that about the starting price, or what would you say as far as a starter investment property price goes, and what price range that would be in?
Yeah, that's about normal. I mean, most of the properties there go for about 80 to 120,000, and the rent's going to be hovering around 12 to 1,500. We're talking about older townhomes, stuff that's built back in the 1930s. The great thing about Baltimore is that it's very cash flow heavy as opposed to other markets such as Dallas. That's why I love it, because I'm all about the cash. So there's different approaches, but we started in Baltimore, so that's where most of our properties are. It's always difficult going to an auction because some people want it more than others. So this is going to be our second or third auction through a website that I frequently use.
So before we get into that, why don't you tell them a little bit about the auction process? Because I'm from Dallas. We're based here in Dallas. We're actually recording live here from Dallas. And the majority of what the business that I do is here in Dallas is we actually have to go to the courthouse and have literally live auctions, like we're holding up signs and somebody's doing this and that. And so it really gets to be like a little bit of a circus here. Tell us a little bit about your process and how that works as far as in the East Coast goes.
So our process, a lot of the stuff is sold online. That's a good thing. Some of them are actually in person, but the stuff I use, since we're out of state for me, I basically put a deposit down of a couple $1,000, and then it's basically an online process where you bid. The bidding process takes about 2 days, but a lot of the bids actually come in within the last 30 minutes to an hour. So we just do our due diligence, we run the numbers, we have a max price that we want to go up to, and if our day is lucky, then we end up getting it. If not, then we don't. For this particular one, unfortunately we lost out on the actual property by a couple thousand, but again, it was, that's what we valued the rental at, around 80, and it sold for a little over 80, about 82 to 86,000. So
let me stop you right there. So you're saying that you do your due diligence. Walk us through how you go through your processes of due diligence before you go to auction on the properties in the East Coast as you're doing right now.
Yeah, so the first thing I do is I look at the rental numbers. I look at the rent. So if, let's say, for example, it's renting out for 1,000, I usually want about it's called a 1.5 to 2% ratio. So I just divide that number and see.
Which is extremely high, by the way. In most parts of the country, you won't find that, by the way.
That's why I like Baltimore.
Yeah.
So I take 1,000, I divide it by 1.5%, and that'll give me the estimated cost of the home that we need to pick up. Then we go on to the website and we look on the condition of the property. I want to see if it's how good of shape it is. I try to go for more turnkey properties that are have leases on them, or I can put a tenant in very quickly with doing very minimal work.
How do you run your comps? Who runs your comps for you, since you're based in Dallas, but you're buying properties in Baltimore, Maryland, DC area?
So my background is I'm a former realtor in the Virginia, DC area. I went into a master's program for real estate development. So I run the comps. Basically, you look at comparable properties of like bedrooms, bathrooms.
Do you use the MLS, or what? Is there a specific site that you go through?
I use a lot of Redfin. If I had my license, I would use the MLS, but a lot of the stuff you can find through Redfin or Zillow. Or you could just reach out to a realtor and have them produce they call it a CMA for you. But a lot of that stuff has to be done up front, and afterwards, if the numbers look right, then we go into the bidding process and we actually seriously think about taking down the property.
Sounds good. Okay. Yeah, and so for you guys out there that are unfamiliar with the process of how to find properties or how to locate rental properties, I would reach out to your local realtors in your area, because even if you don't live in that city, if you kind of just search and Google search other realtors, they can actually pull up what Ed mentioned, the CMAs and the comparables or comps, as we like to call them, of your area. And they'll probably just charge you X amount of dollars for every 100 homes that you search for, every 50 homes that you search for. So every realtor is a little bit different on that. My wife is also a realtor because we develop. And so that's actually going back to a segue of how this show even began, is Ed, when he was moving here, actually reached out to my wife because they were looking for a new construction home for themselves. He was with Keller Williams over there in the East Coast. My wife at the time was with Keller Williams, just kind of starting out. So he was looking for an Asian Korean realtor, which sounds a little racist, but you know, if you know Ed, it's because that he likes to haggle the deal a lot. And so he figured that if he found a Korean realtor, such as himself, that he may be able to haggle the price. This is what I'm assuming. We haven't actually discussed this, but this is what I'm assuming based on getting to know him over the years. He does like to really wiggle as much as he can on the price. And so when he talks about losing out on properties by $2,000, there's a reason why he's losing out on properties by $2,000, folks. But anyways, I'll let you continue.
Yeah, so another important thing that I'd like to add is that you have to look at the surrounding areas. Baltimore is more of an urban landscape, so block by block, it might look totally different. So the reason that we lost by a couple of $1,000s was that
big money, folks.
Yes, big money. A lot of the areas that we want to go into are more up and coming areas, so we have a little bit more on the upside in regards to appreciation. So when my partner who's in Maryland visited that particular street, we saw a couple of townhomes there that were in rough shape, to say. So that's one of the reasons why we were a little bit more conservative on our number. So yeah, we take all those things into consideration. I mean, it's pretty much an art on how much that property is going to sell for. I mean, the upside is that one of the properties are actually sold for almost $210 after being renovated. So it's just unfortunate. There's going to be a lot of deals coming through, and you just try to do a numbers game, try to put in your best offer, and then eventually one will fall through. So that's kind of sums up what the Baltimore scene is, at least for me. We have a couple rentals there, commercial and residential. But I want to swing it over to Sang and see what he's got into in regards to rentals. I know you have a commercial property, I believe, out of state as well, right?
So a little bit of a background about my history in real estate. I've been in business for the better part of 15 years. Kind of started off as a poker player, and then that kind of turned into a passion for business. I purchased a gas station that had a commercial property on it. And then we turned that property into not just the convenience business, but we also turned that into what used to be the drive-through car wash. I kind of renovated that out, turned that into a tire shop, kind of spaced out a little bit, turned one section into a taco shop, and the other one was a check cashing. So I kind of had a lot of traffic, generating a lot of traffic for all the businesses. And so I ended up with 3 tenants within one commercial space. I was there for about 10 years before I got a little bit burnt out, and then we ended up selling it. And then I started developing, started a new construction, custom home building company. We still have that going, but I stopped doing that as I saw the 2018-19 downturn a little bit, and I kind of moved and shifted into commercial properties at that point. Along the way, I've picked up 2 Family Dollars. So they are single tenant, about 8 to 10,000 square foot single tenant commercial spaces. I have 2 of those. I also have a partner in a strip center, which is a smaller commercial space. That is not just by myself, but I'm a partner in that. I do manage that for my partners. And then also we still do flips. And I have 1 rental property, but my parents are currently using that. So I can't technically consider that a residential rental property, but I do own a rental property, just to put that out there. So I'm still on the residential side, but primarily in flipping right now. I just picked up one. Like I said, we are in the DFW area. For those that don't know, we're in Dallas-Fort Worth. So that could mean anything. So like you get in your car and you go anywhere in Dallas. Ed lives 10 miles away from me. It took him 20 minutes to get here. So anywhere in Dallas, you hop in your car, it's going to take about 20, 30 minutes. This one just happens to be about an hour and 15 minutes away from my house. And so some of you guys are thinking, why in the world would you buy a property an hour and 15 minutes away from your house? So that's like 2.5 hours worth of just commuting, if you're lucky enough to not run into traffic, right?
That's true.
So luckily, I've been in this game long enough to where I have crews running this. I just have to check in, just kind of see on what their progress is, give them their weekly draws, make sure they're showing up, essentially. And I can do that through FaceTime these days. I can do that through the material list that I buy at Home Depot, Floor & Decor, whatever have you. So I just need to make sure they're picking it up, make sure these things are dropped off and delivered on time, make sure my materials aren't getting rained on like sheetrock and whatever else. So that's kind of where I'm at these days with what's going on with me right now. I am trying to get more heavily into the residential side. So my theory is this: when there's blood on the streets, everyone's running, but at the same time, I really kind of take what Warren Buffett says, is that buy the fear, and to kind of sum it up is when people are fearful, and that's the time that you should be greedy. I think everybody that you've ever spoke to within the last year, because of the rising interest rates with the Fed and everything, people automatically assume that real estate prices are just going to come crashing down like it's 2008 all over again, like it's the subprime era. But me and you, we know that that's not the case, right? Because why? For 2 reasons. The banks don't lend to people that have poor credit. They don't lend to people that aren't high income earners. And so we were probably not going to run into that time frame again where real estate is one of those pillars that just make the economy just come crashing down. So for that reason, everybody that I talked to, so we were just at church the other week, even one of the members was like, I'm waiting to purchase a home. And I was like, hey, my wife's a realtor, so whenever you're ready. I was just kind of pitching my wife. But further along into that conversation, what I realized is that he was also waiting to buy a house because he feels like the better time is next year. So 2 points here, guys. I think if you wait, the interest rates are going to continue to climb. So most people that are purchasing their primary home, it's a larger purchase. You're probably not going to cash out your home if it's primary. Ed likes to cash out his investment properties. That's why he's looking at Baltimore, Virginia, Maryland area, because they do have great cash flowing homes at a very affordable rate, where he likes to purchase 80K, 100K, 110K homes that cash flow $1,500 a month, $1,800 a month. He likes high cash flow, and these are like over 10 caps. So we analyzed one the other week while we were sitting here eating dinner with our families. And based on his analysis sheet, I kind of do things off the top of my head, but Ed is the reason why I like to do this with him, is because he has a whole formula. We have a whole spreadsheet of how he gets into these properties. And so we'd like to share that with you guys later on, not in this episode, but we'll probably put a link down below if you're interested in it. You don't have to, but it's something that we base our formula on as far as how Ed purchases his real estate, residential properties, and how I'm going to base mine moving forward. So Ed gets into his homes at 80, 100K. Versus me, I'm over here doing a flip where I'm probably going to be in 300K cash. And so in Dallas, if I chose to rent that property out after I rehabbed it, and I'm probably all in about 300K on this property, I'm probably going to be able to rent it on a good day for about $3,500 because it's an up and coming. I wouldn't even say it's an up and coming. It's actually a great area. Down the street from us, there's $5 to $8 million homes. I mean, this is the richest area of Fort Worth, probably. I just happened to pick up a smaller home that's in an area that's a little bit distressed, that needs a little bit of work. And so it is, I would say, up and coming, but it's right next to a very affluent area. And the funny thing is, I used that word wrong the other day, and I described a gentrified area for an affluent area, and he's just kind of staring at me for about 10 minutes like, what is this guy talking about? So those of you that don't know, we're going to put it up on the prompter that what affluent means and what the other one means for you guys. But why don't we get into how long you've been doing this and who you're working with and kind of the scope of what you're trying to do next and where you see the market going.
Okay, so I've been in real estate since about 2016 as a realtor. I've purchased my first investment property back in 2018. It was 2 townhomes we purchased from a retiring couple. I distinctly remember when we toured those properties, it was raining cats and dogs, so it kind of prevented a lot of people from coming in. They had tenants inside, so it wasn't showable, so you had to come in at a specific window. So we got really lucky. The properties were in okay shape, but there were definitely tenants in there, so we knew that the lease was intact. They were paying on time. It was a bit of a struggle to get those first 2 because one of them caught fire during the closing process, so we had to delay it a little bit. The restoration company had to come in for about 5 to 6 months. But we eventually got it, and we got it at a great price. So we're very thankful for that. In regards to the market, Baltimore, in particular, that area has been pretty gentrified at this point. I wish we bought the entire block, actually, in hindsight, but a lot of it's sort of spreading away from Johns Hopkins University. We see a lot of uptick as you go southwest of Johns Hopkins. I try to stay in East Baltimore and towards the Bay, the harbor area. So you want to be closer to where a lot of high-income folks are living. There's a lot of hospitals there, so a lot of hospital workers. I've seen a lot of properties in West Baltimore, but that's a little too risky for me. So I try to stay in like my niche area, which is pretty much central to Southwest Baltimore. But in the market, it seems like it's doing great. The rents have been rising steadily, like all places in the U.S. But Baltimore seems like it's still a great cash flow heavy property. I mean, area in general. So again, I'm all about cash flow. It's also appreciated as well. So our properties haven't gone down to under what it's been. So our rentals have actually doubled in price. So I guess everything's working out very well for us there.
How would you go as far as identifying? So you say that you look for cash flow, but is it more so cash flow, or do you look at the upside of the area when you say gentrified? What is it that you're looking for when you identify a property? Not just in the Baltimore area, but just moving forward with the scope of real estate knowledge that you've obtained over the years. What is it that you're looking for as far as when you throw $100,000 into a property or when you throw X amount of dollars into a property? What is your 5-10 year goal versus, let's say, I'm just trying to make $1,000 a month on said property?
So my long-term goal is to get about 70 to 90 units, and that could be just row homes, it could be single family units, it could be small to mid-size multifamily units. I mean, that's the end goal, is to converge all of them into a multifamily. But if that doesn't happen, then you can also have just, smaller multifamilies, like 4 or 10 units, and just group them all together. So that's the end goal. In regards to how I see Baltimore or where I see it going, if you want to get into the great nitty gritty, then you have to go and do some research on what the city plans to do with that particular area. So, for example, the reason why I chose Charles Village, is where our properties are, is that there was a lot of long-term planning for like a streetcar to come through from the downtown area all the way up to Johns Hopkins. So there was a lot of promise for a lot of development coming in. So that's what sort of attracted me there, as opposed to the surrounding areas of Baltimore. If I want to go back even further, the reason why we chose Baltimore was we were debating Baltimore and then another part called Hagerstown, Maryland, which had a lot of multifamilies, like 8 to 10 units, buildings. The only problem is that I didn't see any development going on there, so I didn't really see any upside. Baltimore in general, there's a lot of new corporations coming in, a lot of new businesses. So I always try to look for places with strong job growth and population growth. So in the
That's
long
a great point. That's
Yeah.
a great point.
Yeah. So yeah, that's where I take it. I try to be a little bit more analytical. So if the deal makes sense on paper, then you have a lot of confidence in moving forward. Not every deal works out, but so far it has. So I guess the track record speaks for itself. With that being said, we want to give something to you guys, right? So I want to go into the next segment where we actually give value to you. So if you're in the Dallas area, let's talk to Sang about where he thinks the perfect flip or rental should be, and see if he can give you a little bit of insight, because we're talking about generalities right now, but the whole point of this show is to give you guys value, to take away something. Should we give them all the secrets, or?
Well, so I think what my partner Ed is trying to say here is that what we were talking about discussing is primarily what we know within our own sub-markets, but that obviously you can apply our knowledge and the things that we've obtained through our successes and our failures. You can apply that through every market that you're in and every demographic of America, basically. I mean, outside of this country, we probably have no idea. But I was born in Seattle. I've lived in California. I've also lived in Las Vegas. I've lived in Austin. So we have, and Ed's from the East Coast, and he's been throughout the East Coast. So we have a very wide range of geographic knowledge as far as real estate goes. It's not that we are invested in all these different areas. So like my commercial properties are out of state. They're not even within Texas. So they're actually in the Mid-East. And so like, it's not even that we are trying to stick to what we know, but we're trying to just give you guys the knowledge that we've obtained, whether it's cap rates or just general knowledge. So Ed kind of likes to stay at a 10 cap at least. That's kind of his range of what he chooses to buy as far as cash flowing properties. I try to look at a little bit more of like, if we don't have as much high upside on the cash flow, I'm a little bit more like, hey, maybe this could be an appreciation play later on, where like I'm more comfortable in the 6 to 8 cap range, because in Dallas, a 10 cap is you're reaching. So just to put it lightly and put it very, very lightly, it's not obtainable. A 10 cap in Dallas is just not. We in Dallas, Fort Worth, and even the surrounding North Texas areas, if you can get a 1%, which is purchase price and total rent on your purchase price or investment, if you can get 1% of that back in monthly gross rent, you are outstanding in Dallas. I mean, you are in fantastic shape. So even the one that I picked up, I'm trying to stay under 300K all in. Purchase price was $227, with me paying for the title policy, closing costs, what have you. And so I'm $227 there. I'm trying to stay rehab around 70, but as anybody in construction knows, it always runs overtime. So that's more property taxes, that's more utilities, that's whatever it have you. And so weather permitting, we're trying to stay within a 70K budget there. And so you got to kind of give yourself a 5-10% cushion because anything can happen. At the last minute, something can go wrong. You're going to have to redo flooring. Some plumbing things may come up. Luckily, we're pier and beam on this house. It was built in 1951. And so we're pier and beam. So the plumbing's not going to be an issue because there's a ton of crawl space. Those that are unfamiliar with pier and beam versus just a foundation, a slab foundation, is that pier and beams are kind of like blocks. So they're like old school things. Like, I don't know if you guys have ever seen cars that have had their rims stolen. I don't know why I'm bringing this up, but they're literally sitting on like cinder blocks. And so homes built in like Ed was talking about, like 1930s and 100 years back, dating back to probably about 50 years ago, they use what the system called pier and beams. So they're just like round concrete blocks. And so they'll just systematically place them around the foundation of your home, which these days everyone either pours or it has multi-levels. I think on the East Coast you have basements and whatever. So it's a little bit different these days, but my house happens to be a pier and beam. And what that provides me is that, yes, I may have some asbestos, but I also have the ability that if I have major plumbing issues, which is always underneath the home, right? I have the ability for my contractors to just go in there, fix it at any point in time. So I don't have any hiccups. Everything's right in front of me. I don't need to snake a plumbing camera down and have to redo it and all this other stuff that like last minute plumbing can be a real issue with normal foundation slabs. So that was one of the things, but like I said, I'm kind of getting off topic, but I'm trying to stay within an under 300K all in. And as I mentioned earlier, if we do happen to convert it, I'll probably be getting about $3,500 in rent. And so I'm actually over the 1% rule there. By a little bit, I'd be closer to Ed's range in the 1.5% range. I'd kind of be inching towards that, maybe like 1, 2, something like that. And so that's a great percentage here in Dallas-Fort Worth. Local markets based on comps, because I do run them from time to time without my wife knowing, because she gets mad because I ask her for 100 comps a week. And she's like, you know what? Here's my login information. Don't sue me or don't rat me out, guys, because I'm technically not licensed and not supposed to be doing this, but I do pay for my wife's realtor fees, which kind of I feel like entitles me to use her realtor knowledge. So what I end up doing is I go check different markets for rental comps, and then that's kind of how I scope out homes based on if I'm not able to sell this property right now as a flip, then my worst case scenario is I'm going to just rent it out because that's plan B. And I think given what the market is these days with the rising interest rates, I don't think that everyone has the ability to purchase a home given what the prices of the homes are in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So as Ed mentioned, some of his rents and his appreciation has doubled. And for a lot of markets in Dallas, the rents aren't slowing down. A buddy of mine just picked up a home for, I believe, around $50,000 in an area that's never been known to be a good area. And he's renting that home out, 2,500 square foot home, for $3,500. I mean, it's probably got to be the highest rent rate that entire neighborhood has ever seen. But that's just kind of the climate and the state of where we're at right now because people are so hesitant to purchase because they don't trust the real estate market as in any market right now. So the rents are just continually rising. This is what I'm noticing, particularly in our area. And I really feel like this is in almost any area because we can speak from down south all the way to the East Coast. So it's not just our area, but primarily almost any area because there is a big reluctancy, a big hesitancy towards making your big first purchase. And it is probably the most important purchase of your life for most people. I think I'm kind of along the lines of like, it's a great wealth building tool for most people that don't know how to invest in real estate separately on passively outside of your own earned income. So if you have a job, you're a W-2, like most people are, right? Even Ed's a W-2. He's an investor, but he's still a W-2, right? So
hopefully not one day.
It's because he's greedy and he studied law and he still does paperwork for companies and stuff like that. So he's still a W-2, but it's because he's smart. Don't get that twisted, guys. But anyways, most of you guys are W-2s. I'm not knocking that whatsoever, but our goal on this show primarily is to take a W-2 and then convert you guys to non-W-2s, right? So we'll not only watch it happen here, but we're going to watch it happen with you guys. So that's our mission statement. That's our goal. I think we've given you a little bit of a background about what we do, where we're going, where we see the market as far as the rental market goes. And so I think if you guys stay tuned, you guys can kind of pick up a lot. I mean, that's kind of where we're at with the rental thing. So
thank you guys for listening and viewing our podcast. We appreciate it. Before you leave, please like and subscribe and turn on your notifications so that the next video that we come out, you'll be the first to know.
Also, let us connect with you by commenting below your next deal and let us give you our professional feedback and analysis. And we'd love to get to know you better. And so that's going to be below. Hit that comment. Until next time, I'm Sang.
I'm Ed.
We're signing off. Peace out, guys.